Brought to you by Pfizer.
In this video, you're going to see the future.
In all sincerity, I say to you, hello, you awakened wonders, as you awaken from the illusion of reality into the bright and always available luminosity of God, that the material world and the systems that benefit from it attempt to control you by infusing your deep spiritual reality with unending profanity. You might be watching us on Locals now, like Mrs. CMS. You might have just seen me doing break bread, apparently with Paul Kingsnorth, but Paul Kingsnorth, sadly, was not available. Hold on a minute, I'm going to play a sting now. This is going to blow your mind. Sadly, that didn't happen because Paul Kingsnorth's internet wouldn't work over there in Ireland. If you're watching me on Rumble, like Colorado Watch, hello! Thank you! Thank you for joining us. We've got an incredible show. We've got an incredible week. We've got an incredible gift. We are alive. And reality can be altered at any moment. In fact, let me tell you something that demonstrates the plasticity and mutability of reality, something we're not paying enough attention to because it's almost like we think it's somehow permanent. Cymatics. And cymatics is described here by Jake, who produces the show, as, let me just scan up a little bit. Oh no, I've gone back too fast. Cymatics, what did you say? Oh yeah, the study of how sound and vibration can be made visible. The study of how sound and vibration can be made visible. In the beginning, there was the Word. There is a powerful, powerful vibration accessible to us, somewhere between wave and light, yet both, where we can access a divine and powerful reality. A divine and powerful reality. We'll be discussing that and so much more. Much of my current luminosity is as a result of my consumption of 1775 coffee. I'll be bringing you a commercial from those guys any minute. You might be watching us on YouTube. You might be watching us on X. Any second, you'll only be able to watch us on Rumble. That's our home. And you'll be seeing us discuss deportations. Deportations and tariffs. Who would have ever imagined that tariffs would be like the nuclear missiles of 2025? I will tariff you so hard. I'm, of course, referring to the deportation story that Trump has said he's going to deport Colombians. Colombians say, no, you don't. I nearly did the accent, but I've had a brush with Colombians before, and I'm not going down that road again. And then Trump went, tariffs? And they went, okay, you can deport as many people as you like. We'll be talking about deportations. We'll be talking a little more about the LA fires. We'll be talking about Bill Gates. We've got a fantastic story about Fauci. Matt Taibbi talking about how Biden pardoning Fauci and others could be a good thing. I'll be interested to get that perspective. We'll be talking about Keir Starmer, the globalist prime minister and authoritarian in my country. He leads the country, if you could call it that. And then we've got a story about Tulsi Gabbard as well. I've just had a B12 shot in my arm. It actually is aching quite bad. And that's with getting a jab that's probably is good for you. Lord alone knows what it's like if you allow people to pump aluminium into your body. What business has aluminium got in a vaccine? And I mean that from a scientific perspective. Like, can someone answer that in the comments and chat? What are they saying aluminium does? When I say they, I mean pharmaceutical companies that make vaccines that have aluminium in them. Aluminium in them. And is this yet another in the ludicrous and outrageous discoveries in the pharmacological world? In that dark pantheon, along with Johnson & Johnson's potentially carcinogenic baby powder and arsenic in baby food, I think also from Johnson & Johnson, although I think in both cases they settled out of court, presumably because there was something going on. Extreme Steve says, don't forget the thimerosal in them, and Zypher 2000 in the locals chat, and mercury, aluminum, they're saying it in there, and odium 31, I'm not good with Roman numerals, in the Rumble chat is saying aluminum. Aluminium. Oh, aluminum. You guys say aluminum, huh? You want to say... We don't want aluminium injected into our arms in vaccines. Aluminum? That I'll inject into my arm. Yes, some vaccines contain aluminum. And that's a good thing. That's from the New York Times. All the news that's fit to print. RFK Jr. and others have blamed the ingredient for allergies and other illnesses. Scientists say it actually bolsters immune response. Those carcinogens are good for your baby's butt in talcum powder. It's good to have an opioid pandemic. They'll just say anything, won't they? Thanks for watching us. If you're watching us on X or YouTube, we're going to be with you here for a little while before exclusively streaming over on Rumble. And if you're watching this on Facebook, you should be able to now, because the platform is being depoliticized, because the world is changing really fast. Here, it's changing so fast, in fact, that even the CIA will admit that COVID, get this, get ready, where do you think COVID came from? Let me know in the comments and chat right now. If you're watching me on X, if you're watching us on YouTube, if you're watching us on Rumble, if you're watching us in locals, tell me, where did COVID come from? Right? Did it come from a market in Wuhan? Did it come out of a bat cave like Robin after a bad night? No. It came from, lab. That's all I can read. I'm reading it. I'm just seeing the word labs in China. Like, and people, I know that your knowledge goes way beyond that. I know you know about diaper and the sort of like the microbial structure. And I know that you know that there were relationships between Fauci and the CIA. I know how much you know. Well, the CIA, an intelligence agency, mark you, an intelligence agency, now says that COVID escaped from a lab. Well, it took 5 years.
The CIA now believes the deadly COVID virus likely originated in a lab in China, but admits it has low confidence in its own conclusion. The newly appointed
like that from the CIA that has no confidence. See all those films, Jack Reacher, Tom Cruise, all those guys. They're confident, aren't they, the CIA? Like, you want Alec Baldwin, you know, steady, playing a CIA agent. You want confidence, don't you? You also want competence, and make sure that thing's not loading.
The appointed CIA director declassified documents about the origin of COVID-19 on orders by President Trump. The findings are not new. They had been completed during the Biden administration. The agency believes their evidence makes origin in a lab more likely than a natural outbreak. Intelligence officials say,
if they're doing this, and the JFK files are coming out, how long is it going to be? Hello, this is the main news. Deceptive forces have taken over the world's governments and deep state agencies, and furthermore, numerous corporate and commercial interests. They've been working in alliance for centuries now to control consciousness. I mean, how long before the ultimate truth is just on the news? Because they're actually saying stuff. If you said that on Twitter, as it was then, or Facebook, as it was then, 5 years ago, I think armed guards would come to your house, drag you into the street, and shoot you like a pig. That, I believe that's the case, isn't it? Now it's just on the news. COVID came from a lab. Anthony Fauci was earning money from royalties. People lie to you. Even this news program is actually a deceptive loop of distraction and propaganda. I mean, we're actually catching up to reality. Maybe this is a good thing. Let me know how you lot feel about the deportations. We'll be discussing that later, along with the LA fires, as there's a lovely Bill Gates story. Bill Gates responds to questions about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. That's just a chat you don't want to have, isn't it? You don't want to go, who among us? I've actually, got some complex matters in the UK, thanks to the darkness of this machine. But who among us wants to be asked this question? Could you explain the nature of your relationship with Jeffrey Epstein? Yeah, I don't have one, because I knew that geezer was deep state, probably Mossad, and was involved in getting people involved in like sex parties to compromise them to you. Yes, that's why I don't have a relationship. Bill Gates has got some sort of relationship with him. Not me. Not Trump. Not Joe Rogan. Bill Gates. Extraordinary. Extraordinary. Okay, now just let's have a moment of sweetness and distraction as we observe together that Elon Musk, in some ways, has the body language of a character from Sims. That's beautiful. Probably what that is that Elon Musk at some point was just like a nerdy kid, and he learned his reality and his behavior so deeply from games, probably including Sims, because isn't he like the 5th best in the world at some online game? He is, isn't he? He's so embedded in that reality, the same way as that I am with television. Like my whole life I've been like looking at TV and sitcom characters. Elon Musk is so embedded in like that he's actually mimicking the language. It's like when you see them little girl. Have you ever seen that footage of a little girl that was raised by dogs or wolves? Have you seen that? Isaac, see if you can find it, man. When she drinks from a tap, like she's a human. It's like Mowgli out of Jungle Book. Mowgli out of Jungle Book. She drinks from a tap and it's like she has dog mannerisms, canine mannerisms. Elon Musk was raised by Sims. That's what it is. He's like that's why he is a Neuralink. He's sort of already enmeshed with that kind of, I was going to say artificial intelligence, but whatever that intelligence is. Whoa. Okay, let's see what's next. Okay, should we do a quick word from one of our partners so I can take a breath for a moment? This is 1775 Coffee, which is owned by Rumble, actually, and we've got a bunch of it. Here, this is dark roast. You sweet son of a gun, you. I had some of this with mushrooms in it the other day. Yeah, no kidding. And I'll tell you, it's good and it's invigorating. Have a look at their message. 1775 may have been a dark year for the British, but it was a great year for freedom and a great year for coffee. 1775 coffee is a powerful brew indeed. Did you know that drinking 2 to 3 cups of coffee in the morning could slash your risk of death? And it's a risk that you're going to have to face by 29% and cut your chances of heart complications by nearly half. In which case, I'm going to live forever because I drink about 10. That's science. You can't argue with that. But what's the point of you if your coffee tastes like it was brewed by some hyper-woke barista more concerned with their TikTok following than caring about your coffee? Enter 1775 coffee. In you come. This ain't just coffee. It's a revolutionary act of defiance in every cup. Why not have a revolution before breakfast? Hand-picked at high altitude, sourced from single origins farms, this coffee don't pander to corporate overlords or sugar-laden mediocrity. Whether it's beans, grounds, or pods, every sip of 1775 coffee is a stand against the industrial coffee complex that's been filling our mornings and our bodies with junk disguised as caffeine. This is coffee for the free thinkers, the ungovernable, the seekers of truth. God bless you, 1775 America. Head over to 1775coffee.com and use the code BRAND for 15% off. And make mornings great again with coffee that fuels bold flavor, uncompromising quality, and the freedom Rumble stands for every day. If Rumble were a cup of coffee, it would be 1775. Get yourself a cup right now. You'll maybe live forever. Is that too much to claim? That's a good advert, I'd say. I'm not talking about my performance, but generally the inserts and B-roll are pretty good, aren't they? I've had a look at B12 jab in my arm. It really hurts. That's my endorsement for that. It really hurts. And Jake's, that hurts as well, doesn't it? So you should not be getting vaccines with aluminium and mRNA. Imagine that was a spike protein making its way to my heart right now. It's the last thing I need, or giving me some sort of weird delirium like it gave my mate vertigo. Ow! That actually hurts even to move it. Man, I need to spend more time around war veterans in it, because like if I get a ache in my arm, I'm like, that's it. Go on without me. I'll just slow you down. But like I've been like literally only a week ago I was with people that had lost their legs in battle, and you just can't keep it in your consciousness, can you? All right, okay, listen. Now, from talking about a stimulant that's derived from Central America to the subject of Colombia that has no connection to any stimulants. And I once made the mistake of joking about that, like, you know, cocaine, Colombia. It led me into a lot of trouble. Don't make that joke. Now, Colombians are being deported significantly from the United States of America as part of Trump's new deportation in action. Any of you that have been following politics for the last, 8 years will recognise that a significant part of Trump's mandate appears to be a strong stance on border protection and the preservation of the rights of the indigenous population, even if that encroaches into liberal ideas of what is an acceptable level of illegal immigration. But you'd have to underline the word illegal. And once you allow illegal immigration, what is that and what is the law? And what it starts to be some pretty powerful ontological and legalistic questions start to enter the conversation at that point. Anyway, some of the things we're going to be covering as we break down the deportation story are celebrity interjection, the irony. There's a Selena Gomez sort of crying. We're checking that out. We're going to look at how this is being contextualized, i.e., Is Trump's deportation rhetoric or practice significantly worse or better than previous presidents? And then we can look at how media amplify or de-amplify certain points and ideas in order to control the narrative. So we'll look at, like, you know, Obama's deportation record. Then we're going to look at Clinton, Hillary talking about illegal immigrants in 2008 to see if the rhetoric is even that incendiary when compared to Hillary Clinton's. Then we're going to look at this brilliant viral clip, I've been told it's brilliant, I've not seen it, of J.D. Vance clashing with Margaret Brennan off of the legacy media on the subject of unvetted refugees. Now, we'll stay with you for a while longer if you're watching us on X, because I want to know what you guys think of this story, but let me know in the chat and watch us live. It really helps us. I'm obviously talking to my friends on locals like Heather CO and Hendy and Underdog and Cal Jennings, and I'm also chatting to my most beloved and adored friends on YouTube, even though I know that's a platform that really strangles our content. Talk about Jesus. I needed to hear it so bad, said Bill Mayer. Christ is present in the sub-particular reality that you can experience right now as consciousness itself. The whatever you want to see that as, an electronic or luminous quality, the presence that you are as you look out through the utility and tunnels of the senses. Christ is this. Furthermore, Christ is all things. Where he is not, nothing is. He saturates reality the way that sunlight saturates a room. Somewhat quoting Thomas Aquinas there, but also thinking about sort of the deep sub-particular realities that must be infused by Christ. Christ is present. Bill Mayer, don't worry about that. But would Christ be deported under Trump, Obama, or Clinton as just another migrant from the Middle East? That's not bad. I think that's available. I think you're allowed to say that if you're making a connection to stuff, aren't you? Let's first of all look at the tariffs component. Who would have thought that tariff would become the nuclear missiles of 2025? I will tariff you into the middle of next week. Who hasn't been threatened with a tariff? Trudeau, God rest his soul, he was tariffed off, wasn't he? We'll tariff Canada. And then now the president of Colombia said, don't you dare, can I do an accent? Don't you dare send migrants back to our country. Sorry, that was too Mexican, it's too generic. I'm not an expert in various Hispanic accents. Anyway, Trump said, you will take back your population or I will tariff you. Now, do you let me know in the comments and chat, a martial and proactive president like that, or do you see this as a transgression against the basic requirement for compassion that the world's displaced deserve? And furthermore, second question, what is the meaning of a mandate? Because one thing that Trump's pretty explicitly campaigned on is his stance on migration. So if you believe in democracy and you believe that Trump was elected somewhat on a deportation mandate, what right do you have to complain about it now? Or even if you do complain, you have to still acknowledge it as part of the expression of the democracy in which you are a participant, and to deny would mean that you yourself, the irony, were a fascist for denying. Let's have a look, first of all, at the tariff aspect of this tale. That's the Colombian president caving to the threat itself.
The president of Colombia quickly caving to Trump's demands to accept deportation flights of illegal Colombian nationals after refusing 2 flights on Sunday. First, the president of Colombia refuses the flight. Then Trump...
Mrs. Tindelstrom in the Rumble chat, Canadians don't want to be tariffied. That's brilliant. I can't believe you got to that before I did. Is that pun already out there? Tariffied, like terrified by a tariff. That's good. If that's not owned, Luke, make a meme. Let's own it. Like, get ready to be tariffied, right? That is block text. And then an image of Trump, and then like a hashtag or whatever, tariffied. I mean, it's brilliant. Oh, tariffed and feathered, says RCD Despacale. Good, but more obscure, I would say, than the brilliant tariffied. So you can see that Fox News are delighted, aren't they? There's a kind of sense of delight in this reporting.
Flight. Then Trump announces that if Colombia does not accept the flights, a 25% tariff on all goods is coming into the United States will be placed on Colombia. And that tariff will increase to 50% after 1 week's time. Trump also proposed a travel ban and an immediate visa revocation on Colombian government officials, allies, and all supporters. Colombia now has agreed to all of Trump's terms, including taking back all illegal migrants deported out of the United States. The country's foreign minister and ambassador are expected to be in Washington.
That's hardcore. I suppose that's what, if you're pro-Trump and MAGA, you're like, whoa, man, that is how it's done. He says, we're deporting people. I've been elected on a mandate of deportation. The president of Colombia says, we won't accept back our citizens or civilians. Trump says, here's my bullet-pointed response. We start with 25%. It goes to 50%. People like that that's gangster. Now, the mistake that the liberal media might make, I predict, is that they'll treat this as like, this is awful, without realizing that this is what people elected Trump for and kind of like about him. And if you're making a moral argument that is awful based on the idea that we're one human family and we have an overriding obligation to be loving and compassionate to us, then you should have governed like that when you had the chance.
Mr. and Ambassador are expected to be in Washington today for high-level meetings. Liz.
In fact, I've not finished. Instead of which, you operated seemingly on behalf of Satan to permit children to go missing. I'm talking about globalists in general, and use rationalism and materialism and various new categories to annihilate our connection to the divine. You can't complain when people vote against you. We can go back to the news.
Wow. Your reaction.
Well, it was really taking like, a bazooka to a knife fight, right? What's interesting about this test marketing, if you will, of the sanctions and tariffs threat, Maria, is that we actually have a trade surplus with Colombia. So this is not a country where, like Canada, where they are really going to be devastated, presumably by.
Let's talk for a while about bazooka to a knife fight. How many versions have you heard to that? Have you heard, that's like taking, I've heard fart to a shit fight. I've heard that. Have you heard better versions of bazooka to a knife fight? Let me know in the comments and share.
By tariffs. So this was really more, I think, President Trump getting angry that they had turned these flights away and basically saying to all our neighbors, look, we are serious about getting rid of criminals that are in our country that come from your country. You're going to take them back, and there is no discussion about it. So it was, was this sort of overreach by the president? Maybe, but guess what? It got the job done, and I think that is, as I say, sort of a template going forward.
Yeah, I mean, it's a litmus test, right, Cheryl?
Yeah.
I mean, because if this did not go well, others would have gotten a different message. Now, pretty much all the people who are dealing with Trump on tariffs are receiving this message.
Well, the message is he is serious. This is not a threat. Remember, last week, Goldman Sachs put out a note that said there was only a 20% chance that the Trump administration would levy these tariffs against Canada and Mexico. But think of that overall message from that group of investment, advisors or, Goldman Sachs. They're saying, oh, it's a threat. This is negotiation. You have people like Stephen Miller and Howard Lutnick that are saying, no, these tariffs are real and we're going to put them down. Tariffs first, and then we'll talk later. And so that's why when the Colombia pushback came so fast and furious before we had the discussion about February 1st, this is why. Because the Trump administration is sending that signal. This will be happening. This isn't a joke.
Yeah, right.
And I understand his anger about those flights. It's their citizens, and they're criminals. Take them back. So you know what? Like that could have made that would have hurt Colombia's exports, by the way, with coffee. And it would, maybe my cup of coffee would have went up 5 cents. I don't care.
That's amazing, isn't it? That's what patriotic, neo-nationalistic politics is going to look like. There's going to be deportations, but there's been a mandate for deportations. And that's what happens if you agree in sovereignty and nation. I guess we're caught in a real moral quagmire there if you want to approach this from a moralistic perspective when it comes to migration and refugees. If the native population vote against it, who are you to claim that they ought to take it? On what basis? It's a really fascinating moment we've reached historically there, because I think if you undo it, you have to get rid of nations entirely to say, no, actually what we are is we're one just human people, one human family. You can start to make a spiritual argument for that. We are just one human family. We're all here together to protect one another. Whoa, okay, if that's your argument, we're going to have to really radically revise and alter the way we construct all of our systems, because we have been building economic enclaves of despotism and tyranny for a long, long while now, and making the primary function of the citizenry consuming whether that's media or products. That's what we've created, is a passive larvae class. But now you're saying we're all one planet and we're divinely connected to each other. So you're saying there's a God, I suppose, or if not a God, then there's an absolute morality that we can all refer to, which might as well be a God. So we're going to be reorganizing society pretty radically. And because they don't want that, because they only want to use the subject of migration to, I think, create tension and crises in areas, both ontologically but also sociologically, of economic underclasses. What I mean by that is poor people that will have to deal with this both mentally and spiritually, but also physically, due to, you know, topography, psychogeography, and the way that societies are organized. Like, they'll end up, the migrants will affect poor people more than rich people, innit? Got a lot of things to deal with, man. I don't know, we're supposed to get all this done. Do you remember, like, before I asked, have you heard a better version of bazooka to a knife fight, which is what the lady there on Fox said about Trump's stance on this issue? Well, someone called Darding0172 in the Rumble chat said dildo to a pillow fight. And I feel like, actually, that's not the same sort of thing, is it? Because, like a dildo is not an escalation of a pillow, but like a knife is a weapon and a bazooka is a better weapon. A pillow is a comfort, and a dildo is a sexual object. So that's not an escalation, that's an abstraction. And also, it doesn't belong at a pillow fight, because who has pillow fights? You lunatics. Man. All right, now, the next aspect of the deportation story that we're covering is Selena Gomez, I believe former, what would I... What,
she was a Disney star.
She's a Disney star, pop star.
She's on Only Murders in the Building.
Why do you know so much about Selena Gomez? There's a 30-year-old man behind that curtain going, Selena Gomez. Now, what's the last bit? You said she's got a show on Hulu.
She's on Only Murders in the Building with Martin Short and...
Only Murders in the Building. That's Isaac. How old are you? 27-year-old man.
That's his wallpaper on his phone.
It's his wallpaper on his phone. It's none of your business what Selena Gomez is doing. You're married to Jessica. Your son is Leon. Selena Gomez is none of anyone's business. That's the question. What's the point of celebrities now? Now that we're starting to derive morality once again from let's face it, some force majeure from some trusted place, what do we need celebrities for? And I say that as a former celebrity myself, who's literally opining, ironically, while saying, is it time for celebrity opinion to cease? And why has Selena Gomez endured so much ire for this sentimental post as a sort of, I think she's of Mexican descent, around the deportation issue? And perhaps more importantly still, why does Isaac, a 27-year-old man, have Selena Gomez as his wallpaper, and why does he know her whole resume and got links for her projects?
I just wanted to say that I'm so sorry. All my people are getting attacked. The children.
Well, I don't know. Does the internet want that anymore? Is that any different, really, than when I recently went to a church with Tullian, who's one of Billy Graham's grandchildren? I spoke at his church in Jupiter. Do you know the name of his church, Jake? I'm speaking there again soon, as well as, you know, I've got an event at Mar-a-Lago. I'm doing an event at Mar-a-Lago. Can you believe it? Come to that if you want. We should post a link for that in the description, guys. I'm doing an event at Mar-a-Lago. I can't believe it. I mean, life's unusual. Is her crying like that, in essence, really no different than when I sort of talked about sex workers and how I feel about sort of having participated in prostitution by having at points when I was younger and slightly more chaotic, having paid for sex? And I've sort of felt emotional. I suppose what it was, how is it different? I didn't expect I was going to be getting emotional because I was having a general conversation on a stage, a place of performance. I suppose, yeah, when we see deliberately, because is she on her own in a room sort of crying? Now, she's allowed to have an authentic reaction, isn't she? Like, to that subject. Selena Gomez is pro-sex trafficking. I don't think that's what she's trying to say, Abby Tad. You can't do that to it. No, what she's doing is she's having a personal experience, and none of us now know what the boundaries are for social media and what what you're supposed to be expressing on there because you're rewarded for extreme behaviour. You're rewarded for extreme sexual behaviour, anger, conflict, and extreme emotional behaviour. Lily Phillips, who's coming on our show soon, was walking around in a post with literal human effluvia on her face. That's one of the things I'm going to be talking to about, is what is happening to our morality, what's happening to our essence. Do you think it's appropriate? Let me know in the comments and chat for Selena Gomez to express herself. Why shouldn't she, in a way? She's got a different experience of migration to many of us. Is it that you're questioning the legitimacy of her emotions? You think it's performative? Is that what people's objection is? I'd love to know what you all think. Anyway, when it comes to the actual facts of the matter, in a somewhat of a Ben Shapiro, facts don't care about your feelings way, is Trump any more martial and extreme on the issue of deportation and illegal, the deportation of illegal people, I suppose this refers to, than anyone else? Bill Clinton, during Clinton's presidency between 1993 and 2001, approximately 870,000 people were deported. During Bush, 2 million, loads. Barack Obama, even more, 3.2 million. And he got the nickname, look, deporter-in-chief. Trump, around 1 million during his first term. So in a way, not spectacularly different. So does this make you think that we approach deportations differently, that there's not an objective thing called deportation and then we respond to it? Do you think that deportation under Clinton was regarded in one way and was subsequently reviewed, at least in terms of its interpretation, in successive administrations, and now because there's such a desire to condemn Trump around these issues, it's reported on in a particular way? Or do you think that Trump has always been explicit that he was going to deport folk and now he's deporting them? Or do you believe we need a radically different perspective when it comes to the subject of deportation? Secondarily, let me know in the comments what you think about Selena Gomez's emotional perspective. But while we think about that, let's have a look at Hillary Clinton talking about illegal immigrants in 2008. If you're watching us on X, we'll be with you for a few more minutes. Same on YouTube. We do our whole show over on Rumble as well as on Locals. If you haven't got Rumble Premium yet, consider getting Rumble Premium now. You get additional content from us and an ad-free experience over here on Rumble. Have a look at Hillary Clinton right now talking about deportation or illegal immigration, at least, way back in 2008. Now, it's not that long ago. I know it's nearly 20 years, I suppose, but just try to note, are there any permanent states, any permanent views, any permanent positions? Or do politicians expediently alloy themselves to any passing trend or convenience in order to pursue power and influence? Let me know.
So I think we got to have tough conditions. Tell people to come out of the shadows. If they've committed a crime, deport them. No questions asked. They're gone. If they've been working and are law-abiding, we should say, here are the conditions for you staying. You have to pay a stiff fine because you came here illegally. You have to pay back taxes, and you have to try to learn English, and you have to wait in line.
So there you go. I mean, what do you think about her body language and stuff, by the way? I think you could have freeze-framed her into a few Nazi salutes across all of that. And do you see that there's some sort of continuum? Is there something similar about her and Ellen? And what's going on with the adrenochrome? What is adrenochrome? Do you take it that far, guys? Do you think that there is actual occultism going on, or just frazzle drap and those kind of things? How do you feel about that stuff? Do you think that there's a sort of a deep truth when it comes to those rather more harsh yet esoteric conspiracy theories? Or do you think that in an attempt to sort of frame what we kind of vaguely regard as evil, we look for Pizzagate, frazzle drap, or whatever that thing is that sort of suggests that the most brutal practices go on in the circles of elite power? Do you think that that's an attempt to narrativize or understand or symbolize their evil, or do you think that stuff's true? One thing's for certain, there do appear to be elites with extraordinary influence over our planet. Who knows what their motivation is? The issue of criminality and deportation is what we're discussing right now, with Trump's new stance on deportation coming into practice early in his presidency, and his now already, I suppose, famous use of the tariffator. There's no pun there to be had, is there? We're talking about all of that and whether or not Trump's stance on deportation is truly unique or just rather vague, and what happens when criminals can be deported as well. What kind of world are we living in? In a minute, we'll be looking at J.D. Vance's clash with CBS reporter Margaret Brennan. But before that, here's a quick word from one of our sponsors, and it's Rumble Premium. This is why you should get it. The war against free speech is in full swing. We are the vanguard, bravely fighting back. Rumble's the home of this channel, Stay Free, and a leader in defending the fundamental human right of free speech. They've joined X to sue a cartel of advertisers and ad agencies who conspire to block ad revenue from going to the platforms. Recently, they've launched Rumble Premium. This, I think, is going to be a game changer for all of us. It's an ad-free viewing experience with great perks for viewers and creators. Rumble Premium will give you the ability to dive into your favorite content on your mobile or desktop or smart TV and savor every uninterrupted second of my content. Why don't you upgrade to Rumble Premium today? Support my free speech and the free speech of other content creators on this platform. Please go to Rumble now, rumble.com/premium. And if you use the code BRAND, you'll save $10 and Rumble will be aware that our stream is creating great converts. So that's rumble.com/premium and do use the code BRAND to save $10. Anyway, there's a link there at the bottom of the screen now. We're posting it in the chat. Join up. Why, do you think I look browner there? I am browner there. It's the lighting. Listen to this. Too good to miss. Barack Obama said in 2014 that if you commit crimes in America, you'll be deported. So is even Trump's new pledge that criminals or repeat offenders, recidivists, will be deported, is that particularly novel or extreme, or is it something that's been around for a while?
If you're a criminal, you'll be deported. If you plan...
Simple as that. There's Barack Obama saying it in 2014. Now, I mention this really for two reasons. One, people that condemn Trump's position as particularly draconian are negating two things. One, that he's just been elected on a heavy mandate, and two, that people like Barack Obama are saying it. And also, like we're saying it in 2014, 11 years ago, making very similar claims. And the other thing I want to say is this: if you're particularly celebrating the fact that this is happening, it's not all that different either. So there's no point in being extreme or excited by any political movement, really. It's only about the organisation of resources. We're meant to be on a spiritual quest, trying to attain connection to the limitless light of the Lord, that we may experience eternal life together by becoming like him. We're not meant to be quarrelling and quibbling over which political party is slightly better and allowing them to be vehicles for our highest spiritual requirements. They're not capable of that, and they're not there for that. They're not there for that.
If you plan to enter the U.S. illegally, your chances of getting caught and sent back just went up. The actions I'm taking are not only lawful, they're the kinds of actions taken by every single Republican president and every single Democratic president.
He's actually making that point, innit? I bet what some of you lot are saying, I can't see them yet because the comments are coming so fast. Let me know on the comments on X and on YouTube and on Rumble and on Locals. I bet what some of you are saying is, no, Obama just said stuff like that to mask the fact that they were allowing mass migration, so fighting age males were filling up our nations and our cities, because I know these narratives exist outside of America, although we're specifically discussing it within America right now, in order to destabilise populations and to create the kind of dystopic tension required to inaugur globalism. Globalism is the trend towards a new world order and one centralised global government that's not controlled by any sovereign nation and therefore not reachable by democracy, but where a set of elites, according to conspiracy theorists like Soros or Bill Gates, maybe on the right people would say right-wing ones like Elon Musk. I don't know the absolute details of the subsets and sectarianism within conspiracy theories, but the general idea is that globalism will afford maximal power. I reckon what we'll see now with resurgent nationalism is an attempt to reach those same globalist aims while appeasing people on the level of nationalism. So people feel like, see, our nationalism's being fulfilled. Meanwhile, nefarious forces are still able to create bureaucracies that maneuver the powers of dominion and information in ways that are expedient to their consistent intention, which has always been total control and to create a simulacrum and facsimile of God's pure world. But that's just what I think. Why don't you let me know what you think in the comments and the chat? I recognise my views are not everyone's, but somehow together, and I would say the way to do this would be move the levers of power as close as possible to the people that are affected by them, i.e. decentralised power wherever possible, so each of us may live in our own garden filled with luminosity and alignment with him, the highest principle. Here's J.D. Vance clashing with a CBS reporter. After this, we will be leaving X and YouTube. And wow, I guess I'm going to be talking for a while because I've got a lot of obligations.
Well, Margaret, I don't agree that all these immigrants or all these refugees have been properly vetted. In fact, we know that there are cases of people who allegedly were properly vetted and then were literally planning terrorist attacks on our country. That happened during the campaign, if you may remember. So clearly not all of these foreign nationals
but there are
have been properly
30,000
vetted.
people in the pipeline, Afghan refugees.
But my primary concern as the vice president, Margaret, is to look after the American people. And now that we know that we have vetting problems with a lot of these refugee programs, we absolutely cannot unleash thousands of unvetted people into our country.
These people are vetted.
Good.
These people are vetted.
Just like the guy who planned a terrorist attack in Oklahoma a few months ago, he was allegedly properly vetted, and many people in the media and the Democratic Party said that he was properly vetted. Clearly he wasn't. I don't want my children to share a neighborhood with people who are not properly vetted, and because I don't want it for my kids, I'm not going to force any other American citizens' kids to do that either.
No, and that was a very particular case. It wasn't clear if he was radicalized when he got here or while he was living here.
I don't really care, Margaret. I don't want that person in my country, and I think most Americans agree with me.
We'll be back in 1 minute.
Whoa, that's a new type of political rhetoric right there, because now what we've seen in the space of 5 short years is online discourse being rendered on legacy media by people in political power. I can't think of a precedent for such radical change in discourse. Indeed, you can see right now, as the layers continue to peel at different rates in different territories, the United Kingdom still adhering to the previous paradigm. They will say in the UK, because there's been so much compromise in the UK to preserve the idea that multiculturalism is completely sanitary and without consequence, that they've misreported and concealed grooming gangs, nay, rape gangs, in order to preserve the idea that multiculturalism is ubiquitously beneficial. Now in the United States, post-MAGA, you have what appears to be the explicit, overt, articulate expression of the ordinary patriot through the mouth of the vice president. And I suppose what some people might argue is that the reason that ordinary people have that perspective is because right-wing media instruments have propagated the idea of nationalism and the condemnation of migrant populations, that it's not native to feel protective of a country. But of course, that's where you get into trouble, because a nation is going to require borders. And then while there will be hopefully some process of migration and a nation will always be porous, the ideal is that it's preservation of a population. And if you don't have that, you don't have nation, do you? Not in the same way. And again, if you want to live in a globalist utopia, that's also something that could be pursued, but you'd have to have a mandate for it. You couldn't just impose it. You couldn't just say, we're getting rid of nation. That would be crazy. Mattress to a pillow fight. That is better, Camcat. Well done. Yeah, you bring a mattress to a pillow fight. That works perfectly. Don't bring a dildo to a pillow fight. It's got no place there. You wouldn't be allowed in the pillow fight with that. I think that could be cut together as one thing. One job at a time. All right, so J.D. Vance there. I suppose J.D. Vance versus Margaret Brennan shows us that we are in the age where online discourse has entered the corridors of political power in a 5-year period. That's an extraordinary turnaround. Okay, guys, if you're watching us on X, we're leaving. On YouTube, we're leaving. The rest of the show will be exclusively available on Rumble Premium. We're going to talk We're going to talk a little bit about? Well, actually, why don't you tell me what you want to see us talk about? Bill Gates talking about his relationship with Epstein. Let me know in the comments and chat. The LA fires. Keir Starmer in the UK. It's not looking good for them. Or Tulsi Gabbard and John Brennan. CIA Director John Brennan demands the Senate not confirm Gabbard. That's interesting because we're getting into some free speech territory. Click the link in the description. Join us over on Rumble now. And if you are with us on Rumble, have a look at this. This is Break Bread with Russell Brand. Now, I was meant to be doing Break Bread with Russell Brand today.